Good, excellent. So I will spend some time on these first slides.
Perfect.
So that's a presentation of our platform. It's composed of RDM, obviously, our connection manager. The password management to the lower left is our password hub. We both have a business or a personal offering. It's SaaS-based. It is SOC 2 compliant, ISO 27001 compliant, and all of that good security stuff. And then in red to the lower right, we have the privilege access management offering, which is built on Devolutions Server. But Devolutions Server, as most of you know, is also a password manager. And you can choose to store your accounts either in the previous model of connection management, or you can elevate it to a privileged account by storing it in the PAM module. And how does that address your concerns? Because we're using these tiers now for everything. It helped crystallize our thinking and to help communicate to you guys where we're going and why we're doing stuff. So to the first tier at the bottom, so it's tier 3, meaning less secure, is only network management. So that's basically RDM.
Yeah.
Okay, moderate to low security requirements. If you elevate to tier 2, then you're into productivity and control. So more stringent security, more logging, and so on. Then tier 1, is governance and security. So the stringent security requirements. And that's everywhere. We use this ourselves for isolating our networks. We have our tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 networks. In our software delivery system is obviously tier 1.
Yes.
So we use this across the board. We dog food it. We live by these rules. So that's really everywhere in our thinking nowadays. And how does that translate into capabilities? So again, basic connection management, centralized database for sharing, time-saving features. So obviously, that's maps directly to Remote Desktop Manager. Then in a tier 2, then we have, you see there's a gradient there. Yeah. So there's a certain posture you can meet depending on your requirements.
Yes.
So obviously binding to identity providers, namely AD, Azure AD, and so on. Having an isolated database behind a middle tier. So no longer will you access from your client workstation directly the database. And our excellent role-based access control. Then you get to choose. Do you want something that is self-hosted or you're happy living in the cloud? Then, do you need a full syslog integration, or you can live with pulling logs out of the platform? And also alerts and notifications. What level of alerting do you need? So that's, again, a gradient, but we have offerings in that tier. Then lastly, tier 1, PAM and privilege session management. We'll see that is exactly the gateway, what it does. But that's the Gartner way of naming things, the PSM, PAM and PSM. In fact, for Gartner, their PSM is just a subset of PAM. For us, it's a full-fledged feature as important as the PAM.
Okay.
And that, lastly, translates to our product offering, the whole platform. So at the bottom, Remote Desktop Manager, using individual data sources, or a self-managed SQL Server, SQL Azure.
Yes.
So you have a direct connection to the database. Then if you elevate to tier 2, you use either Password Hub Business or the Devolutions Server. So most likely, for most of you guys, the only difference is on-prem versus cloud-based. But Devolutions Server has alerts and notifications that are more granular in nature. But you get to pick and choose. And what is nice is some of our customers are using both. So IT is all running on DVLS.
Yes.
and the admin staff is using Password Hub.
That's what we, in fact, do here. We separate it up. I mean, and we're users. I mean, I'm using all of them because I have to talk about them in our videos, but it works really, really well. For like our marketing team, our HR and accounting, they'll be exclusively Password Hub because it's simple, it's easy. It's kind of a one button, one lever, one way. But those that need a little bit more behind it, a little bit on steroids, the Popeye version, it's DVLS really gives more of those controls.
Yeah, and the web interface is quite similar. The capabilities are quite similar. Obviously, you tack on our excellent Devolutions Web Login. Which we'll see, I think.
And it works with all of our products, which is
all of our products. So either you're IT or you have more complex scenarios and you use RDM, which connects to everything that we offer. So it connects to Password Hub, personal or business. It Devolutions Server, obviously, and even local data sources. So RDM is once again that 1,000-bladed Swiss Army knife, that single pane of glass, that you use day in, day out. And finally, tier 1 is you combine the Devolutions Server with the PAM module and the gateway. So by using a mix of these three, in fact, the PAM and gateways are add-ons to the Devolutions Server, but when you combine to your liking what you need, you reach the tier 1. There. So that was for our attendees that are not customers or not users of Devolutions Server. If I focus on the features of the Devolutions Server, obviously, this is our one-pager marketing stuff. So vaulting privileged accounts or connections, old-style connections, and credentials that are not deemed privileged accounts. You can launch privileged sessions. You can control critical assets. Obviously, secure passwords, be they in connections or in privileged accounts. Again, monitoring, reporting, and one of our focus, and that's when we compare ourselves to the market. We're really easy to deploy. It obviously our staff deploys it for customers. It takes but an hour, and within a few days, you're already highly productive as compared to others, which takes weeks and sometimes months. So that's Devolutions Server in one page.
And we work a lot to improve the installation.
It's never ending. We always have tickets to improve the installation because we compare ourselves to others. We have meetings every week with the support staff, half an hour, every week with the support staff. What problems are you experiencing? How can we improve it? What feature is missing? And it's really, we're feeding the flywheel. It's really nonstop.
And we're using a lot of the, like he said, dealing with our customer service department, but it's a lot of the input that you give us that we're constantly realizing, wait a second, they're right. We need to look at that. And then that's now it goes on their team to say, how are we going to manage this issue to improve this feature, So, but there's a constant communication and it's really helpful. So by the way, thank you for those that have pushed us a little bit hard at times. Sometimes they don't sleep well at night, but really to make sure that the features and functionalities work for you. Definitely. Absolutely. Very cool.
So that's the 10,000 feet overview. Obviously, RDM in blue is key. It's the cornerstone of our platform. And it connects to the Devolutions Server. What's that small symbol? Self-hosted. Yes. That's why we added this to compare to the Password Hub. So Devolutions Server is self-hosted. It can be deployed in a cloud in your own Azure or AWS infrastructure. You just need a VM that runs IIS and we'll deploy it with you guys. But what is key as well for non-IT personnel is the Devolutions Web Login. So if we compare ourselves to others like LastPass, 1Password, this is really the scenario that we're going after. open a web page, it detects that you have credentials for that website, and it autofills maybe, auto-submits maybe, and it just logs you in.
Yeah.
For now, the PAM accounts are not available in Devolutions Web Login. That was a decision that we had made, but we've decided to offer them in our coming release. We'll have we'll see, I don't know if it's in the roadmap, that the PAM Usage Policy engine that will allow the admins to specify where they will be, you can use these PAM accounts. So that's pretty much it. Did I miss something? I don't think so. So this release, version 2022.1 that came out February 16th? 15th?
Yeah.
A month ago.
Yes. Version .9.
Yesterday. We released a new version just yesterday.
10 yesterday.
10.
Yes. Yep. And paired for those of you that had issues with Windows OAuth and MFA, you do need to upgrade to both .10 of the DVLS and
.20 for RDM.
.20. So there was some adjustments in both. So sadly, you need to deploy both. But it came out just yesterday, and it improves the
login process is really improved. We had different issue, some login loop. Some customer were not able to log in at all. So we fixed that. It should be more stable. In RDM, you should be logged in. You don't have to be to log in again.
Okay.
So many improvement.
Good. So it's a huge release for us. But for you guys, it's not as significant because we spend a lot of time of doing stuff behind the scenes. So Angular 12 support for our web client. So again, you don't see a lot of stuff, but that's a lot of time spent adapting the calls that we make to the UI layer. So that's something sizable that you don't see a lot. Adapting to .NET Framework 4.8, so it's a new prerequisite. Still some adjustments. You don't see a whole lot of goodies come out from that. OAuth, so that's big. OAuth is it's not a standard. It's really weird because you have OAuth, you have an OpenID, and so anyway, when you support OAuth, the idea is that we can add on identity providers easily.
Yeah.
Like that. So we've implemented support for Azure AD. Most often people call it Office 365.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. The next one we'll see is already on the roadmap. But theoretically, we can add on to that collection upon every release.
Yeah.
But will depend on your requirements. But the feelings we get still requests for SAML, for SCIM sometimes, so which are other technologies. They're all in the same area, but still. So again, this was huge for us because the Devolutions Server has become an identity provider in itself.
Yes.
Exactly.
There used to be stuff done by RDM, sent to Devolutions Server. All that is over now. DVLS is a full-fledged identity provider when you're using our custom authentication model. And for the rest, we delegate identity to a provider. So that was big, and it works with version 10. It's really nice.
It's really better.
Yes.
We had many issues, we know, but we improve it a lot, and we will continue. If you have any issue, don't just post on the forum, and of course, login is really important, so we will be there and replies really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, the gateway, which came out in November, I think, is now maturing. It used to support only RDP. Now it supports SSH as well, and that's our bread and butter. RDP, SSH, that's like 85% of our business uses these types of connections, especially in a PAM space. You know, RDM, again, supports 150 technologies. TeamViewer, Telnet, RAdmin. It goes on and on and on. But in in 2022, cybersecurity being as it is right now, what we see is RDP and SSH. Also support for alternate hosts. Will you show that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because sometimes the same machine you access using direct access. Sometimes you have a full-fledged DNS name, fully qualified domain name. So some of our customers needed that to be able to have an alternate. And it's mostly used when you're outside of your network boundaries.
There's two different things here. I will show it later, but there's alternate hosts, and there's also an option to use the Devolutions Gateway only when you are on a remote remote position. Okay. So if you are in the office, you don't want to use it. We have customers who don't want to use it for performance issue. So if you are in the office, we'll not use it. If you are in remote position, it will create a session via the gateway. So, but the alternate host is something a bit different. You will specify a list of hosts, and you will use the gateway, but the gateway will try to reach the first one. If the first one doesn't work, it will reach the second one, and so on.
For RDM users, it's a lot like ping, connect if unable to ping.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a parallel with VPNs. Although we've played around a lot in that area, and in that case, it's not a PSM component because you're not using it to elevate your security. You're just using it to make your life easier, and we're all for that.
Absolutely.
And there was something IP DNS name. I think I will say the keyword, Kerberos.
It's really specific. I will talk about it when I will show it. There's an option just to help people. It's not the perfect solution for now, but we worked on a better solution that should work for and will create the Kerberos authentication.
That's Marc-André and Ben.
Our expert.
Yeah, they're doing magic stuff. They're directly connected to Microsoft. They have their ins at Microsoft, and they know, Marc-André knows RDP like no other. So it's really amazing. Okay, what about that poll about Gateway?
Yeah, so with that one, thank you for answering those polls. Right now we have, we'd say 96% of the people are not using the Gateway whatsoever. So we have about 4% are using. So it'd probably be good to talk about it in a little detail, what even it does and why we're using it. Yeah.
And the next bullet is for Pam. So what about Pam?
And then the PAM is the same thing. About 95% are not using it, the PAM module and 4R. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the PAM came out last year. We had AD providers. So the provider is your link into an identity provider. So we had AD, we had local SQL servers, and SSH boxes, because to my surprise, they're rarely federated. People are using private key authentication, but none of these machines are connected in any way. I thought something like free IPA would be widespread, but not at all. So we've added local Windows accounts and Azure AD. And so these are two significant accounts. I would say for Azure AD right now, what we're seeing is that we've beefed up RDM in regards to privileged accounts, because now there used to be my personal credentials. Now there is my privileged account. So you can store your least privileged account in my personal credentials. Then my privileged account, you create a connection to it, and it will be usable in Azure AD, and it will allow you to elevate your security drastically. So Azure AD, PAM, so these were the significant changes in that space. For the console, again, coming from support staff, from our customers, we've improved the creation of the recovery kit, in fact, because it used to be files that were mostly left to your own devices. You would have to back them up, and they were in two places. So we've created a recovery kit. It's a simple zip, and you just move it to your cloud storage of choice for recovery purposes. Obviously, that recovery contains a response file, and the console mode use the response file, but the UI, so DVLS console UI, was not adapted to loading it. So now that's been improved. And the side-by-side deployment of the gateway, Frank will talk about that. And in RDM, our team did that. We've created a PAM dashboard. So a bunch of stuff in RDM will now be done by the Devolutions Server team because it is a direct connection to our own stuff, and it improved the integration because the same guy is on both sides of the fence. So the PAM dashboard, and Frank will spend a time on that. But prior to that demo, I was ready with the gateway architecture.
Cool.
So in the privilege session management mode, most likely you would deploy a gateway to act as a gateway into a secured zone of your environment or of your infrastructure. As you can see by the flow there, Remote Desktop Manager will call the Devolutions Server a request to have a session go through the gateway. He will receive a token, which is then sent to the gateway to prove the authentication and everything. So it's a TCP connection, so you can secure it as stringent as you like, because HTTP is one way or a TCP is the other, and it just a short lifetime identification token. So it's really on point, and it allows for reaching again that secured zone in your environment, most likely a specific subnet. And that's a single server, but the architecture is made to have multiple. And we have 3 there because we have 3 tiers, obviously.
Yeah.
So we use this ourselves at Devolutions, really. And they can be deployed physically on the same server as Devolutions Server. So for smaller customers, everything is self-contained.
Yeah.
But for larger customers, they can be deployed anywhere in your infrastructure. It runs on Linux. It runs on Windows. So it's really a perfect tool. And our numbers were that you could run 75 concurrent sessions through it. We certified at 75 is good. We have customers that are using more than 100 concurrent sessions at the gateway at the same time.
Interesting.
So it's really, really seamless, quite
The
performant.
performance are really well.
Yes. So there.
Time for
10:27.
Fantastic. Well, that was good.
Yeah.
Good job, Mo. So, so far, this is, I know people are going to ask for those slides, so we're going to send them to you. Don't worry for those that were missed out on the beginning, but we'll send an email next week. Jenny will send you an email with the link to this YouTube video, as well as all of Maurice's wonderful PowerPoint slides. So now we're going to take a look at a little bit. Some of you are anxious to see, like, what does this look like? What is this button? Where's this feature? With that, so we're going to go ahead and Frank, I'm going to go ahead and switch to your screen here, and we'll give it a couple seconds for it to cycle. But if there's any questions, I know so far people have been asking some good questions in there. I did have a question by Marek Cesar. He said, is there any possibility to utilize Gateway for file copy over SSH, SCP, SFTP?
It would be using SCP.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it work because it uses TCP.
Yeah, but you can ask. Marc-André should be able to answer that is it in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat. Yeah, in the chat. Marc-André might be able to get a little more specific on the actual the way it works there. Absolutely. So yeah, Richard is actually there too. So he's Richard's helping out with that. So yeah, you guys are asking great questions. So very, very good. So yeah, Steven said, I love this architecture for segmentation. I know Mo is big into that as well, so I think it's something we really tried to focus on for that. Okay, so let's take a look at your screen here. I'm going to transition over so you can see the software. Yes. So right now we're in Remote Desktop Manager, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
even if it is a demo for DVLS, I start from here just because we talk about OAuth. We did a lot of things with the authentication, with the login. So of course, there's nothing to show in the web. In the web, it's exactly the same thing. You just open the login page, you enter your credential, and you logged in. But here in RDM, it's a bit different. So if I log off, the flow is a bit different from before. If I just open my my data source, before it used to open an embedded web view. So now it open your browser and you have to log in there as usual, and you will receive a success page saying that you can close that page and nothing more than that. And if you come back in RDM, you will be logged. After that, you should stay logged as long as you don't request a log, or you didn't have, or if you have set something in RDM to lock your RDM, there's other option to force it. But if you don't have those options, you should stay connected for a long period. So other than that, just to remind that now we support 2FA with Windows authentication with the version that we just released yesterday.
Okay.
So this is for the OAuth feature. Now just move to the web page to talk about the gateway. The gateway is configured here in administration. We have module gateway. You can see here that we have 2 gateways already installed. We have one side-by-side and one standalone. So what we call side-by-side is a DVLS that you install on the same server as your DVLS, and it uses exactly the same IIS application. So the URL of the gateway is exactly the same. Maybe I can show it here. It's exactly the same as your DVLS server. So if both are at the same URL, it means that it's a side-by-side installation. What is important to know with that installation is it is free up to 5 concurrent sessions. So out of the box, you can install Devolutions Gateway side-by-side, and you can use it without any license. If you install a standalone one, you install it on a separate server, and to use it, you need a license, or it will need a license starting with the next version, the next major version, 2022.2, probably around June. So for now, you will just receive a warning saying that you can connect, but it will be blocked with the next version. So.
And that number of 75 concurrent sessions is for a side-by-side server. On a standalone server, if you beef up the processor and everything, we can't even tell how many are going to work. It's going to be really nice, I think.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the only issue is TLS on both ends. So it's CPU. It's really not network. It's really not memory. It's just that TLS encryption both sides.
And one thing, if you want to use the side-by-side, you can add a license and use more than 5 sessions, of course. But if you want to use it for free, it's up to 5 sessions, it's possible. So other thing that is available now in the gateway configuration, we have 3 things here. So we have log sessions, and new thing with the .10 version, the one that we just released yesterday, is Diagnostic. So the goal of that is just to help you to install it, because we know that we can have different issue to install it and to configure it. So we try to give you more tools to help you to diagnose different issue or. So this is why we added that. And when we talked earlier about the to simplify the installation, it's also why we decided to install to have a gateway side by side. If you want that gateway, it's just during the installation of a DVLS, you can just check install DVLS, install gateway, and next install, and that's it. Nothing else to do, and you can use it. If you want to install a standalone, it's a bit complicated. So I would suggest to use the side-by-side first, just to understand how the product works, and after you can deploy what you need.
Richard is a pro. He helps a lot of customers.
So here you can get the logs. Probably you will not use it to. You will probably not understand them directly, but for sure, if you contact our support, they will ask for that, and we want you to be able to get them easily. So you can send them to us, and we can help you. So the other thing is a small diagnostic. It's new, like I said, with the last version. It's just to see if your gateway is healthy. You can see the version as well, because otherwise you cannot really see the version of the gateway. So you can also see the clock difference. The reason why we have that is if you have a difference, your clock are not synchronized between the gateway and DVLS server, it can create issue with the token. When we validate it, it is a short-term token. So if the clock are not good, are not synchronized, sometimes it will fail because
Don't look at the clock in his computer.
That's a different issue.
Yeah. So those are to help you to find issue if you have when you install it. The other one is session is to see the current session. So let's jump to RDM now, just to open a gateway session and see, because if you have already seen the gateway, there's nothing impressive because I open a session and it opens a session, nothing more than that. The only thing that now we can see, it's if we came here, we can see that, Bob opened a session with that server. It's a RDP session and start at that time. And we also support, like we said, SSH session. So you can start, refresh, and you will see that, okay, there's another session. It's only the current session the active session that you will see here.
And in the future, there may be recording there may be a view of the current session.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sky's the limit because that runs on the gateway.
And we also work to add more protocol, to support more. We would like to support a web page to
spoiler alert.
Sorry. That's true.
And that is big. I think I forgot to put it. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, in the gateway. Yeah. The web is huge for managing switches. So if you imagine that your remote endpoints that you are trying to protect, they're switches, or the servers really your vSphere environment, so you have the rack, high-low, and so on, they must go through a web portal. So tunneling through the gateway, a web portal, is going to be amazing. And it's going to be as seamless as that. Obviously, it's going to be an embedded web browser page, but still, it's going to really hide all of that complexity.
Other thing that we can show you is, I thought maybe just to give you example, if I open with a standalone one, you will see that that warning that say that you will need a license with 2022.2. Okay. So it's just to remember that it will be required. But I didn't receive that warning with the side-by-side because it is free and that's fine.
Yeah.
The other thing in RDM that we improve is when you come here, we used to have a lot of different options. VPN. We used to have many options. It was more noises because we were supporting only Always Connect, in fact. So we dropped the list just to keep the one that are interesting us here. So you can select Always Connect, that you will always use the Devolutions Gateway. And this is the option that we talked before. If you want to use the gateway when you are at home, let's say to reach a host that is at the office, you can connect if unable to ping. So when you are in the office, you don't use the gateway. When you are at home, it uses the gateway. So it's a feature that people ask. So we added
but
that
you forget
feature.
that it's there. It just works all the time. It's really, we use it ourselves.
Then we also support inherited, so you can define the gateway on the parent and all the connection under.
And new with RDM 2022.1, you can set it at the vault level.
Yeah.
So it's for us, our lab vault is configured that way. Everything is inherited, and we're using the gateway ping if unable to ping. Yeah. So it's. We dog food everything. So what irritates us, we feel that we need to fix for sure.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, we talk about that, it's the alternate hosts. So you can come here, specify a list of hosts, and as I said, it will try to reach the first one, the second one, and so on. So there's a few cases where it is needed. So for the gateway, I think it's everything that we improve in the gateway. Now, just move on the PAM dashboard that we talked about. I will just, here I was logged as Bob to be able to edit the Bob is our administrator, IT administrator. So now I will just move to Côté just to show you how to check out, check in with a privilege account. So the PAM dashboard is available by here in the view. There's PAM dashboard. Then you can select the different team folder, the one that you know how to you categorize your PAM privilege account. So you find the one that you want. And you can check out those privilege accounts and ask Bob to approve. Let's say you need the financial manager account, so you ask Bob to approve. So the request is sent. I have the web here. I'm logged with Bob just to be able to approve the request. So Bob can approve it.
But Bob has received an email, and that
that's true.
The envelope will show the notification.
If I refresh, an email has been received by Bob, saying, and you can even approve by this email.
The notification. Yeah, cool.
So when you come back here, and if we refresh, you can see that now you have the privilege account, so you can copy the password or do a connect. I think it's here that it's different approach that Maurice talked. You can open the session from the tree on the left, or you can open it from the privilege account itself. Start from there.
So Kelly, our first line service desk technician, will not go in a PAM dashboard because that checkout workflow and everything is already supported for our connections. Why we created the dashboard was for the vault admins, the approvers, and so on. So for power users, we'll keep on using privileged connections in the connections area. But for other users, if you're only using PAM accounts on occasion, or let's say you want to check out an account to make sure that no one else uses it for some maintenance purpose, you would do it from there. So you see the view, you have the checkout workflow. Obviously, in the connections, if you're allowed to auto checkout, auto approve, and so on, it will be seamless and everything. So we're just giving you a view into your system, but straight from Remote Desktop Manager. And what did we...
I think I forgot to mention one thing. Is the goal of that is to avoid to to use RDM, and because before you had to go in the web page to do your checkout, you come back in RDM to do your operation. Then you go in the web page to check in. So the goal is to have everything in RDM, and you don't need the web page for those operations. So this is why we created the PAM dashboard. So then you can check in from here, and you can also approve from here. Of course, Kelly doesn't approve, but if I add the Bob PAM dashboard, I could approve the checkout.
So we're going to be adding a lot of stuff in that PAM dashboard. We'll see later on what we'll work on next release. But what is important is that we are currently using Devolutions Server as a backend, so that's where we're using the PAM dashboard in the view menu. But you will notice in the tree view, there is a PAM dashboard entry. That would be for those of you, and we have that scenario, I think day 1 or day 2 of delivering the PAM. We hit that wall. The customer wanted to store his connections in SQL Server and elevate the PAM only to really tier 1 scenario. So accounts only were used in Devolutions Server, and connections were stored in SQL Server. So for that person, having the PAM dashboard up top didn't make sense. So now you can have a rich infrastructure, one or many Devolutions Server, and you can configure your PAM dashboard entry with your desired credentials. So it's the same view, but it's the completely different context.
Yeah, so it's cool because then you can have multiple PAM dashboards and just kind of have a overview about all the PAMs that your privileged accounts you're controlling. Yeah, that's really neat.
I think it's everything that I had for me.
Really? So it's a lot of work, a lot of stuff. A lot of behind the scenes, but still it's a major milestone for identification and authentication. They were a big improvement, and we need to beef them up still further and add on identity providers. Look at SAML still. We do have a request for that, but it's we always have to make choices, sadly. So we work as fast as we can.
But they're working hard too. The team has expanded quite a bit too. The DVLS team, because I remember even a year ago, and now we're in full expansion. But
because we take care of identification.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we take care of the PowerShell module. We have the web interface. We have the REST API. So it's multiple pieces. It's not simple.
Absolutely.
So unless you have questions, I can show the roadmap for the June release.
Well, it's interesting. I've been looking at the chat. You guys have great questions, and I know Richard and Erika and our team has been, and Marc-André have been really answering all of them. So I think they're actually in the process of answering all your questions. So, but I'll kind of keep monitoring them to make sure if there's anything directed towards us if they don't answer them. But yeah, I think we could talk about the release unless there's anything else that anybody wanted to see or to show. But I think you can definitely show the roadmap for what's coming up and what's coming down the line.
Yes. Okay, so the second most requested integration for OAuth was Okta. I know a lot of our RDM customers that are using CyberArk as a PAM. I think the big majority is using Okta, and we've had requests along the lines. So we'll do that. Security policies, that's again something big, and it could be something that is in our next 5 releases, because we're big on minimal viable features. Yes. So baby steps, we deliver something and then we build upon that. So security policies, those that know DVLS, you have IP address whitelisting, you have we have Tor node detection. We have a lot of stuff that is bound to the system. Now we want to bundle all of these into security policies rather. And then you can pick and choose. Let's say you're from home, then you'll have MFA. You're working in an internet cafe in China, well, you don't have access. So you'll be able to attach policies based on filtering. So a specific user will have multiple profiles. So that's something that is being designed. We'll start with what we have right now. So if you're coming from subnet so-and-so, IT staff will know what to do. Okay, that means that they're coming in from the VPN. Then you'll have that security policy profile. So that's something that is going to be big, and we'll improve upon that. Really, we have in my mind, I have a roadmap for multiple releases, but we'll start with just transforming what we have right now into security policies. Then another big one that is been requested forever, ticketing system integrations. Because RDM, they're doing it also themselves, but we need to do it in the back end, especially for the PAM. Basically, when you check out a PAM account, the admin will be able to configure, I need a Jira ticket or a Service Cloud ticket. We're starting with those because we have access to them. But mostly the one that is really requested often is ServiceNow.
Yeah,
but
somebody requested.
They have a huge partnership program. It seems complex. I think because we're going to be using a plugin architecture, we're going to be able to specify the query in, let's say, PowerShell that will query Jira for the tickets, and as well as Service Cloud. So this is really an open system. Once you design the engine, you simply need to provide it with query commands. So we're going to be using that system, and that would allow us to add on, without engineering time, it's going to be just configuration stuff, we'll be able to add on more integrations. Emergency access with a star. Our security team is designing all approval server system, which is going to be online. It's going to be part of our platform. So a lot of us, I say us because we felt that pain when we started using Azure MFA 2 years ago. Is it 2 years, 3 years ago? There was an outage, I think, an 18-hour outage 1 month, and a few months later, there was a 36-hour outage. And we've just activated MFA for only our IT staff. It was that new. So they were locked out. So I know that some of you guys are really concerned about that. So our thoughts were to have phase one, again, minimal viable feature, to have a magic link sent by email. You get to pick if that feature is turned on, who can subscribe to that, and so on and so on. In the future, it could be, we could have a duo push. We could have a Devolutions workspace push. You decide what level of security you want to attain, and you'll have the capabilities to do it. So this is big. I think the approval server should be the basis for our break the glass scenarios and so on in the future. So it's going to be, again, something big push to start it, and then little increments. So that's the emergency access. The scheduler and the gateway, right now, they make some assumptions, that sometimes you need to be on the same server, you need IIS, and so on. So we're breaking that hard link and making them really totally standalone and independent. I think the gateway, that has been achieved. For the scheduler, it's almost done. I think that PR is coming along nicely. So you'll be able to deploy the scheduler. I don't have that topology slide.
But it's also to improve the gateway. You can install it as a standalone, but it's also to improve the DVLS console, because you need to have IIS to
right now,
to use the console. So if you want to install the gateway via the console, you need IIS, but on a standalone gateway, you don't want it. So it will be possible to use the console without it. So it will be possible to install the gateway standalone without any other feature that you don't need on that server.
Pam Usage Policies is right now we had adapted to other PAM solutions because they're not as strong in secure credential injection as we were. RDM has been doing that for 10 years now. So when it was PAM, we would not allow you to use a privileged account using Devolutions Web Login because, as some of you know, for others you're going to be scared, it's deceptively simple to steal a credential from a web page. So we had blocked that, as well as technologies which would create a risk of you grabbing the credential from changing the focus and so on. We're going to give you back control over that. You'll be able to choose, okay, that privileged account can be used in web login, in command line, in PowerShell sessions, or you'll get to pick and choose. I know a lot of you guys are using the dual account principle, where I'm using my least privileged account to get my high privilege account from the PAM solution. It's fine if I know the password. It's my own privileged account. So you'll be able to use that throughout the day, and you check it back in in the evening, and the password is rotated for you. So it's really a good scenario. So for that case, you'll be able to use it as you wish. So that's the PAM usage policies. Gateway permissions, they've been requested because right now, if it's configured, it appears in certain drop-downs. We'll be able to separate who can see and adapt those. Explode admin role. In the past, we had a nice, big, huge flag, is admin. That used to be everything in the system, and we're splitting that in discrete permissions because the example coming from our dog fooding is that Chris, our IT manager, he's the one that can add users to the server that we're using, but he's not really a Vault administrator for other stuff. So we try to give Vault admins to certain users, but they cannot browse for users. So we're going to be splitting all of these discrete scenario, much like Azure is doing and so on. So you'll have really a fine-grained control. The DVLS dashboard, paired with the PAM dashboard, in fact, we're even thinking about creating a single dashboard. We'll see how that goes. We want, again, to prevent you from having to open sometimes the web portal, sometimes RDM. Everything is going to be in RDM that you need to do, except granting permissions. That's granted. But for your day-to-day uses, for sending messages, and for seeing shared accounts, that's going to be huge. Sharing accounts without having to create shortcuts and creating vaults only for specific workflows. You'll be able to send accounts in a separate area, and you'll see your accounts that are shared with you. So it's going to be huge. And then, what's its name? Picky? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a product created for the Wake platform. We will have our own embedded CA in Devolutions Server. So that's going to be used for SSH authentication, X509, authenticate signatures. In the future, there I go there. It's almost time. In the future, where is it? Single sign-on for SSH, upper right. We could federate your Linux connections using that embedded CA, because that CA, the server could request a limited lifetime certificate used only for authentication, so it would become single sign-on for your Linux boxes without the user putting his hands on a certificate at all. So that would allow you to federate your Linux boxes, and you simply have to in that Linux box to configure, to trust that CA, and you're done. It's really a simple scenario. For those of you that know Small Step, they have something in that mode of operation. I think the big ones like Facebook, Google, they're all using that similar scenario. They check out their accounts in the morning. They use it for a single sign-on, and that way you're passwordless during the day. If I go on quickly to the left, OpenID Connect, SAML, again, question marks. Where will we go? We need to look at the complexity and if it fits into our identification workflow. Other ticketing systems, again, this using that open architecture, that plug-in system. And MSPs, we're not forgetting about you guys. We know that you want one scheduler per customer to integrate with their AD and so on. So we keep on improving the scheduler. Danny has joined us last month, a new addition to our team. He's looking into that to have multiple schedulers, and they will each have their own tasks, and you'll have, again, a view diagnostic, much like we did for the gateway, logs and diagnostics for each of your schedulers. It's going to be nice. And again, lastly, for the gateway, people are requesting, and that's Martin, our CISO. He wants us to inject in the gateway some limitations that the current user needs to match. So maybe even if that gateway is in tier 1, we will inject, as part of the authentication token, we will tell it, well, it can only reach machine .9 in that subnet. Or it can only use RDP, or only SSH, or a combination of both. So we'll adapt the gateway based on the current user. So it's going to be nice, and you'll be able to control what they see, what they can do, what they can use.
Fantastic.
We're late, 2 minutes late.
2 minutes late, but I started 2 minutes late too, so I think we're good. But man, wow, talk about all the lots of features, lots of things, lots of requests. There's a lot of great questions that were answered in the chat. We didn't get to answer all of them. If there's anything specific that really is a major concern, okay, go visit our forum, ask our questions. If you have any questions like, why do we have this and it looks like different than this? There was a question on that. You can make a feature request or request it, and we'll look into it a little bit more detail. We'll have one of our developers or somebody will interact with you specifically, see if to give you the reasoning why we made some decisions on that. But man, I think that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Frank? No, Mo?
No,
Mo's done. So, thank you so much. Like I said, our time is up, but we really appreciate taking this time today. If there's anything specific that you want us to cover, like last time, I know a lot of people with RDM, they wanted us to cover vaults a little bit more and so forth. Let us know, because we could do sessions specifically on certain topics.
And I think the team was going to remain there for half an hour.
The team's going to stay in the chat there, so they can keep chatting if you have any questions. That's what we're here for. But our portion is done. There's a lot still going on, but please let us know what features would benefit you and how we can better serve you, because that's why we do what we do. All right. So thank you so much from here in snowy Montreal, and we hope you have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, or next day. Okay.